On a humid afternoon in July 1944, deep within a forest in East Prussia, history came within inches of changing forever. The headquarters was known as the Wolf's Lair, a heavily guarded complex where Adolf Hitler directed the war. Surrounded by barbed wire, minefields, and layers of security, it seemed impenetrable. Yet on July 20th, 1944, danger walked in not as an enemy, but as a trusted officer. That man was Claus von Stauffenberg. Stauffenberg did not begin as a rebel. Like many German officers, he had once believed in his country's cause. He was intelligent, aristocratic, and fiercely patriotic. But years of war had changed him. He had witnessed the brutality of Nazi rule, the senseless destruction, and the growing certainty that Germany was heading toward catastrophe. Wounded in North Africa, he lost an eye, his right hand, and 2 fingers on his left. Yet even these injuries did not diminish his resolve. If anything, they sharpened it. He returned to Germany convinced of one thing: Hitler had to die. But killing the dictator was only half the plan. The conspirators, military officers, civil servants, and members of the German resistance, needed a way to seize power immediately after Hitler's death. Without that, chaos would follow, and the Nazi regime might still survive. So they turned to an existing emergency plan, Operation Valkyrie. Originally, Operation Valkyrie was designed by the Nazi leadership itself. Its purpose was to allow the army to take control of Germany in case of internal unrest, such as riots or a slave labor uprising. It gave reserve forces authority to secure key buildings, disarm the SS, and restore order. Stauffenberg and his fellow conspirators saw an opportunity. They secretly rewrote the plan. In their version, once Hitler was dead, the army would use Operation Valkyrie to seize control of Berlin, arrest top Nazi officials, and dismantle the regime. Orders would go out across Germany, and within hours, a new government would be declared. It was bold, it was risky, and it depended entirely on one moment. On the morning of July 20th, Stauffenberg boarded a plane carrying a briefcase. Inside it was a bomb. Because of his injuries, preparing the explosive was painfully difficult. He had to use pliers and his remaining fingers to arm it. Time was short. When he arrived at the Wolf's Lair, he attended a military briefing with Adolf Hitler and several high-ranking officers. The meeting took place in a wooden conference hut, less secure than the underground bunker originally planned. That small detail would prove crucial. Stauffenberg placed his briefcase under the table, as close to Hitler as possible. Then, using an excuse, he quietly left the room. Moments later, at 12:42 p.m., the bomb exploded. The blast was devastating. The room was torn apart. Windows shattered. Walls buckled. Thick smoke filled the air. Several officers were killed or severely injured. But Hitler survived. A heavy oak table leg had deflected the blast, shielding him from the full force of the explosion. Though shaken and injured, he lived. Stauffenberg, however, believed the mission had succeeded. He saw the explosion. He saw the chaos. Convinced that no one could have survived, he rushed to his plane and flew back to Berlin to set the next phase of the plan in motion. In Berlin, confusion reigned. The conspirators began activating Operation Valkyrie. Orders were sent out. Reserve troops were mobilized. Government buildings were seized. For a brief moment, it seemed like the coup might succeed. But then came the fatal flaw: uncertainty. Was Hitler really dead? Communication lines were unclear. Some officers hesitated. Others waited for confirmation. Meanwhile, loyalists to the regime began spreading the truth. Hitler had survived. Everything began to unravel. At the Wolf's Lair, Adolf Hitler wasted no time. He contacted loyal commanders and ordered a swift crackdown. His survival became a symbol of invincibility, strengthening the resolve of those still loyal to him. In Berlin, the momentum shifted. Troops who had initially supported the coup began to stand down or switch sides. The SS regained control. Key conspirators were arrested. By nightfall, the coup had failed. Stauffenberg and several of his closest allies were captured. In the courtyard of the Bendler block, the very place where they had tried to seize control, they were executed by firing squad. His final words reportedly echoed defiance. Long live sacred Germany. But the story did not end there. The aftermath was brutal. Adolf Hitler ordered a massive purge. Thousands were arrested. The regime sought not just to punish, but to make an example. Those accused of involvement were brought before the infamous People's Court, presided over by Roland Freisler. Freisler's courtroom was a place of humiliation and terror. Trials were little more than performances. Defendants were shouted down, mocked, and denied any real defense. Sentences, often death, were delivered with chilling speed. Many of the accused were executed by hanging, some within hours of their trials. The executions were sometimes filmed, meant to intimidate and crush any remaining resistance. In total, around 5,000 people were executed or driven to their deaths in the aftermath of the plot. And yet, despite its failure, Operation Valkyrie carried a powerful legacy. The conspirators were not perfect heroes. Some had supported the regime earlier in the war. Others were motivated as much by Germany's impending defeat as by moral outrage. But in the end, they chose to act. They risked everything, status, family, and life itself, to try to stop a dictatorship from within. They stood against a system built on fear, knowing the odds were against them. Their failure did not erase their courage. As the war dragged on, the destruction they had feared became reality. Germany lay in ruins. Millions had died. The regime they tried to overthrow collapsed only months later, in May 1945. Looking back, the events of July 20th, 1944, stand as one of the most dramatic moments of resistance within Nazi Germany. A briefcase, a bomb, a single decision that came within inches of altering the course of history. Today, Operation Valkyrie is remembered not just as a failed assassination attempt, but as a moment when individuals inside one of history's most oppressive regimes chose to resist. In a system where obedience was enforced and dissent meant death, they chose defiance. And for a few fleeting hours on that summer day, it seemed like they might succeed.